The Boston Celtics have been one of the most inconsistent and interesting teams the last couple of years. But despite the general lack of talent they've had on the roster, there's always been reason for optimism, considering they have two all-star wings in Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Tatum has flashed all NBA potential, and Jaylen has gotten better every single year of his career. But amid all the recent problems with the Celtics, people are wondering if maybe the Celtics will have to trade one of Tatum or Jaylen relatively soon. So we're here to talk about that. And honestly, I'm a little doubtful that it's something that'll happen anytime soon, if at all. But the main argument that people have when saying Jaylen will have to get traded is that he cannot coexist with Tatum. I'm sure you've seen the Marcus Smart quote a million times by now, and I think it's very clear when watching that neither Tatum or Brown are willing passers, at least at times. Tatum has shown flashes as a passer, Jaylen hasn't really. He's actually averaged more turnovers than assists so far this season, which is not the first time that it's happened in his career. He's never going to be a good playmaker, it seems, and unless Tatum is willing to step back as the quote-unquote alpha, that's always going to hold them back. They can create for themselves, but not for others for the most part. That's a huge reason as to why the offense for Boston goes stagnant at times. There's no movement, there's no true playmaker on this team. Marcus Smart is probably their best playmaker, and outside of that, it's pretty bleak. I really think they need a guy like Rubio who will be content just setting the table for everyone, and if Tatum was able to make significant progress on his playmaking, I do think they could coexist. But let's assume that Tatum never steps back and embraces the team, and Jaylen never becomes a willing passer either. What would a Jaylen Brown trade even look like? There have been reports that the Celtics are in talks with the 76ers for Ben Simmons, and Daryl Morey asked for... Let's see here. Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, and a protected first-round pick for Ben Simmons and Danny Green. Yeah, I don't think a Ben Simmons for Jaylen Brown trade is going to happen. I don't think it would be horrible, but I do think the Sixers would have to add Maxey to make it worthwhile for the Celtics. Simmons' trade value is in the dumpster right now, and Jaylen Brown is at least a 25-point-per-game scorer with good on-ball defense. I think Jaylen plus Josh Richardson, Celtics fans rejoice, for Simmons and Maxey is about as good as it gets for both sides. It is also worth saying that any deal involving Richardson would have to happen in the offseason because he signed an extension after August 6th. I know what Celtics fans are thinking. I get it. But Simmons theoretically gives the Celtics a great playmaker in the short roll, a great finisher, a defensive player of the year level defender, and a great passer just in general. Assuming he can get over whatever the heck happened to him in last year's playoffs, theoretically, that could be something really good. Whether his personality will mesh any better with Tatum or not, I would lean towards probably not, given what we know. He definitely wouldn't be the man on this team, as his camp has come out and said they want him to be. But Maxey also would give the Celtics a different look at point guard than they've had in a long time, and he has the potential to be really good. I doubt this happens, but it's definitely an interesting idea to at least think about. But then let's move on to a couple of destinations that I think are actually realistic for Jaylen to be moved to. Again, this is if pretty much everything went wrong and he ended up having to be traded. I think the best destination is honestly Washington, obviously for Bradley Beal. Richardson would have to be involved for salary, and Aaron Holiday could go back to the Celtics because he's pretty deep on the Wizards bench and will probably end up off the team at the end of the season anyways. This is the best destination for me because Beal and Tatum are very close friends, and that in itself would already make them a better pairing than Tatum and Jaylen. They've said multiple times that they would like to play together. People are generally much more willing to sacrifice for close friends, and with as talented a scorer as Beal is, maybe Tatum wouldn't have as much of a problem stepping back a little bit to share that spotlight. The chemistry between them could potentially solve a lot of problems in Boston if Beal was able to instill some sense of team in Tatum. That's a huge if, this is complete speculation, but either way, he would give them one of the best scorers in the entire league. and one of the better passing guards they've had in the last several years. On offense, I think they'd have a much easier time. Jaylen has been developing as a pull-up three-point shooter, but Beal is already scoring at a high level at all three levels. The defense, I definitely think they would lose a little something. Beal isn't exactly a great defender, but I don't think it would be a huge problem overall. And for my last destination, we've got the Portland Trail Blazers sending Damian Lillard to Boston for Jaylen Brown, Josh Richardson, and Romeo Langford. I'm sure you could replace Langford with Nesmith or someone if you really wanted to, or you could throw picks on top of it. This is really just to kind of capture the main essence of a Jaylen Brown trade. But the main piece is Lillard, heading to Boston to give them the best point guard in a long time. Assuming the Celtics get the actual Damian Lillard and not whatever we're watching now, they'd be getting a player in Dame with elite gravity, who could completely take over the show if Tatum is having an off night. Deep range shooter, good playmaker. I don't think I really need to say a whole lot about it, because it's Dame. We all know what he's capable of, and we all know that he is loyal to Rip City, but at the end of the offseason, if they don't make the playoffs somehow, which they kind of look like a mess anyway, who knows? I think Jaylen Brown plus a bunch of picks and Nesmith or somebody is a good starting point for Damian Lillard. I mean, you've got the Ben Simmons offer, Simmons, Maxey, and some picks. It really is preference, but I think Damian Lillard on Boston would be very good. And as I said earlier, I don't really think Jaylen is going to get traded unless Tatum just really cannot share the spotlight, in which case I'm not sure the Celtics culture problem will ever be solved. But it's definitely interesting to think about these things and the things that the Celtics could get in return for Jaylen. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you didn't like it, leave a dislike. And y'all have a good one.